So yeah, no, I'm joined here by my wonderful friend and colleague Sarah, and we are two young professionals working for the United Nations Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund. And we were asked to speak a bit about SDG 5, gender equality, and SDG 16 on peace. So we titled our little conversation Perspectives on Peace and Gender Equality from two young feminists at the Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund. And we thought it would be maybe the most engaging and interactive if we structure this as a conversation between me and Sarah. So we came up with some questions, and we will start by saying what we do at WPHF and why we wanted to work here, how did we land here, and then share our perspectives on what we learned about peace and gender equality since joining the fund. And then we would like to open up the floor in case there's any questions or something we said resonates with you and you want to know how the fund works. We would have a last question on, being to integrate also the youth perspective on what peace and gender look like also when you're still young and optimistic. Okay, great. No, so let me reintroduce myself. My name is Adri. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Argentina. And I've been working for the Women's Peace and Humanitarian Fund for the last 2 years on partnerships and advocacy. And I love working for the fund because of its unique mission. So we fund local women's organizations who are on the front lines of conflict and crisis by channeling funding directly to the grassroots and organizations that are led by wonderful women, peace builders, humanitarians, and also women human rights defenders. So women's organizations that work across the women, peace, and security nexus within conflict and crisis. So we're currently active in 45 countries around the world. And the reason that this is so inspiring is because we listen directly to these local women's organizations who tell us what they need. So we fund them directly. And because we trust them, they have the knowledge, they understand the context better than anyone because they are living it. And they are experts in building peace in their own communities. So this makes our funding approach bottom up, accessible and flexible. And we want to challenge the often still neo-colonial ties that development funding has within the world. So this is how we, cater to SDG 5, gender equality, and SDG 16 on peace. And we try to make some real tangible action in the world. But this is only a short intro on what we do at WPHF. And I'll also let Sarah speak more on programs and how we work exactly. Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Adri. So I'm Sarah. I'm from Tunisia, and with Adri, when we were preparing our presentation, we thought, how did we land in those positions or ended up working with the UN? And for my part, when the Tunisian revolution started, it was 2011. I was 14 years old. Not coming particularly from a politically active or engaged family, but I was struck by the revolution. It awakened something in me, a need for free expression, for dignity, equality, and I chose to study law back then, and then I ended up studying international law. And the first thing I've ever heard in our international law class was the United Nations and how it was created and how it became a stage for the fight against colonization with the movement of the non-aligned in the 70s. And during that time, feminist organizations in Tunisia were playing also a key role, demanding equality between women and men to be enshrined in the Tunisian constitution back then. And these organizations were very nosy, organizing sit-ins, demanding equality in televisions. And so feminist ideas also started spreading, and slogans were everywhere in Tunisia. And for the little girl I was, who had always felt something was off with people saying it's different for girls, it just made incredible sense. And so when you mix international law with women's rights, with feminist movements, you end up thinking about the nexus between gender equality, peace, and security. And if you dig a bit more, you find out about the women's peace and security agenda and UN Women, and then I ended up in WPHF. What I do with WPHF is supporting women human rights defenders. So the fund has three different funding opportunity, funding civil society organizations, women's participation and peace processes, and then funding women human rights defender protection and participation. And I work with the Women Human Rights Defender window, which is the window created in 2022, specifically channel funding for women human rights defender at risk for their human rights and peace activism in conflict and crisis affected settings, and supporting their participation in advocacy spaces where they call for human rights and peace. We've supported more than 600 women, I think now a bit more, maybe more than 700 since 2022, from more than 23 countries around the world. And we work with women human rights defenders who are fighting for global peace. And when we say fighting, it means literally putting their life at risk and that of their loved ones. And yeah, I feel incredibly honored to do this work. With Adri, we wanted also to reflect with all of you on what did we learn about peace and gender equality since joining the fund. So I'll leave the floor again to Adri.
Thank you, Sarah, and for your incredible, also touching story. So I'll tackle the peace question. I think one of the most important lessons I've learned in these past years as a young professional is that peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's not only about, whether there's a war raging or not. It's about access to rights, like Sarah mentioned, human rights, access to education, to a functioning health system, to fair trials, freedom of expression, also to safety. And it's about opportunities, music, art, joy, culture. So women's participations we know that, there's a lot of research out there that women's participation in peace processes leads to more sustainable and effective agreements, yet we know that they remain underrepresented globally. And we also know that less than 1% of all the global development funding goes to local women's organizations. So when we're, trying to structure a speech, we were like, okay, but so if we know this, why is no one investing in women, or why is the world not investing in women enough? And how does it mean in practice? Because sometimes at the UN, we also tend to speak with lofty words and maybe abstract concepts that are not really concrete and tangible. So we wanted to break it down and tell you at WPHF what does mean if I say, okay, we fund peace builders, and what do they do? So let me give you some concrete examples from different regions that bring peace to life. We funded, for instance, a group of women in Afghanistan that mobilized their community to mediate conflicts, to bring peace to life. It also means funding a women's group in Sudan who provide mental health support to survivors of sexual violence in the civil war that's raging on. It means funding women who are trying to protect the rights of fellow women and girls, tackling different forms of sexual violence and gender-based violence through awareness-raising campaigns and effective referral mechanisms, for instance, in Papua New Guinea. It means a group of women who are working to advance women's leadership in peace negotiation spaces using community radio or public debates or other platforms to raise their voices and amplify their work. We funded such a program of a local women's organization in Colombia. And it also means strengthening women's participation and leadership in peace negotiation spaces. So we had trainings on income generating activities. We created, well, not we, of course, we funded them. They created safe spaces for dialogue, for advocacy, for lobbying in Ukraine very recently. Ukraine is one of our biggest portfolios at the moment. And yeah, I hope, this shows that peace isn't just some abstract concept, but that with concrete little actions around the world, that sums up, and we can bring a little bit of peace on earth through the women that already are doing it in their local contexts. So yeah, like Sarah said, I'm very proud to be, working for such a fund, because it seems real and it seems very tangible. And in today's world, I think this is also more urgent than ever, because we are facing an increasing backlash against women's rights, against also the erosion of multilateral systems like the UN. But enough on peace. We also want to talk more specifically on gender equality and women's rights. And with that, I pass it over again to Sarah.
Thanks, Adri. And yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Back in university, when we used to talk about peace negotiations and humanitarian aid and emergency responses, I imagined men, usually older, impeccably dressed, highly educated, sitting in very nice rooms in New York and Geneva. And after 4 years working at the fund, and supporting thousands and thousands of women from around the world, I've come to realize that those fancy offices and sharp suits only come after years and years of tireless efforts by women who look exactly like all of us, women from all ages, sexual orientation, races, social classes, and different education levels. And imperfect human beings who don't always agree, but who share the belief that everyone would be better off if we silence the weapons. And I've learned that we're all legitimate participants in public life, whether it is local, national, or global. Our voices matter. And no, issues like human rights and peace aren't too complicated for us to engage with. And you don't need a PhD to have a say. And actually, when we set aside the calculation of our own interest, oftentimes the human mind can distinguish quite easily what is just from what isn't. And I don't know if women make peace better or are better at making peace. And I'm not sure that the arguments that women are an untapped resources for peace holds up. And I don't think the only reason to include women should be because they are a resource to be used. But after 4 years working at the fund, I also know that it's not true. Women are not just poor victims that are doing nothing. Women do move things forward. And every single day I've been in this job, I've witnessed ordinary women doing muster extraordinary courage to fight for their communities, their rights, and a better future. From a farmer in the GRC, for example, who realizes that while harvesting her crops, 2/3 of her yield is spoiled due to climate change. So this is meaning she cannot feed her family. And instead of giving up, she relies other women to organize and take action. To Syrian refugee who uses digital spaces as safe spaces to share experiences with other forcibly displaced young women and helping them heal years and years of trauma and displacement, to politically active Afghan women's groups who boldly declare that time is up and it's time to recognize systemic violence against women as an international crime. And I've learned that no matter where you are in this planet, albeit to varying degrees, being a woman means being other. And this means eating last and working for less or for nothing and speaking last. And it means spending every day of your life having to prove that you deserve to be seen and to be heard. And in conflict and crisis setting, this can be fatal. And with the incredible women we work with, they keep repeating to us, gender equality isn't an add-on. It's not an afterthought after the peace negotiations are sealed. it's not something to consider later. It's here, it's now and immediate. It's a fundamental right. We don't have to earn it, and shouldn't be contingent on being the ideal citizen, the perfect victim, the model woman. It's for everyone, and it should be right now.
So, colleagues, if you have any, I thought we would pause here before concluding because I see we still have a bit of time. So if there's any questions or yeah, you would like to ask us about the work at the fund, more specifically, we are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Feel free, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask. I can go ahead and kick it off, though. I'm curious where you see some of the biggest opportunities in helping either educate or provide resources. What are some of the things that we could do to kind of help out with these initiatives on either maintaining or spreading peace globally?
Should we maybe collect one or two questions, or should we go ahead and answer?
Go ahead and answer, and we'll collect some more questions on the way.
Okay, Sarah, do you want to go?
Yeah, maybe I can present a bit how we support women organizations through the different funding mechanism, and Adri, you can answer more about how we fundraise for the fund and how it works after. So for WPHF, what we do is we have 3 funding mechanisms. So the regular funding cycle, which is a call for proposal based opportunities by country. And it's we fundraise, and then we open call for proposals for civil society organization to apply and get funding. Our second opportunity is the rapid response window, and this window is specifically focused on women's participation in peace process. It's a rapid mechanism. So whenever there is an opportunity for women to participate in a peace process, we support women through this funding window. And then we have the Women Human Rights Defender window, which is a window that supports women participation and protection. And the funding mechanism are designed in a way that they are complementary. So we respond to the plethora of needs women in conflict and crisis affected settings face and have. And I'll let Adri answer the question on how we can help.
Yeah, sure. So our biggest donors, of course, as you might imagine, are government donors that have feminist foreign policies, for instance, and they come to us and they say, hey, I can invest a bit. And usually they either have already a country of priority where they say, okay, now, Afghanistan, women are not even allowed to go to the public parks or speak. So I would like to help women in Afghanistan. Or they say, no, with our strategy, it's peace. So we want to specifically fund the rapid response window on women and women participating in peace processes, like Sarah mentioned. But also we're trying more and more to, be as visible as possible so everyone can donate, be it you as an individual or a philanthropic organization or individuals who really wanna do good, because already with $2,000 you can do a lot, as Sarah knows, and help a women human rights defender who might be threatened because of her activism, and we can reallocate her or help her escape, or help her go to the Human Rights Council and present the situation on women and girls firsthand, so everyone knows. So and because you also said big themes are coming up, we are trying to listen to the women we support, what their priorities are. And for instance, now we just opened a portfolio on climate security, because also with the LA fires, I think now more than ever we see that it's very it's all intertwined, and women are also doing a lot around climate security. which maybe traditionally falls more on the peace. You know, we want to get away more from these traditional frameworks and just listen to their needs and what they know and what they need, and then fund that, and, you know, collectively fundraise as well. Yeah, maybe I'll leave it here.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Another question we got in the chat is, what are some of the key goals for 2025?
Yes. Okay. Sarah, if you want, I can go ahead. Okay. So as you might know, if you follow the Women, Peace and Security agenda, for us, actually this year, it's a very big year, because it's the 25th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which very simply put was the first time that sexual violence was condemned in this resolution, and these are legally binding. So also, as two lawyers, you know, they form the bedrock of what the global cooperation in international law is. So we're trying to raise a lot of awareness around that, around sexual and gender-based violence in conflict. And also it's Beijing plus 30, which means 30 years since the Beijing Declaration on the Platform of Action, which is another very, very important moment in the feminist movement, where it was said that, you know, women's rights are human rights. So with these frameworks turning 25 and 30 years respectively, we're trying to do a lot of advocacy around that. And hold events and, you know, bring to the attention that in the face of this backlash against women's rights, we are trying to do our best to put the women again at the center, and so the world pays attention also to their needs. And yeah, Sarah, anything else you want to add?
Nothing to add, Adri, thanks.
Okay, so maybe, oh yes, Sarah put, you know, if you would like to know more about us, we have a very nice website, so you can check it out. And maybe we conclude by saying thank you for having us, of course. And yeah, we just wanted to share, like, as, you know, young feminists, trying to do bring about a little peace on earth. That we're not just participants in the discourse, we're also advocates, and we want to bridge the generations and try to maybe bring about, you know, these concepts and say it in a simpler language so everybody can understand. And yeah, I don't know, like, you can always, you know, you go into a job knowing or thinking, okay, you have a lot to learn, and then it's like, yeah, you have a lot to learn, but maybe also not from your colleagues, but from the women we actually support, who know so much and who also transform peace every day with their work. And it's, I think I speak for the both of us when I say it makes us feel very, very motivated to continue our advocacy work. And yeah, Sarah, maybe.
I see someone raise their hand, so maybe we can leave the floor to Temba. Weekend. Oh, voilà.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Great.
I would like to ask a question. When you empower women in whatever place you find them at, or at whatever level you find them, what have you done in the sense of empowering a woman within the context of a culture or tradition in such a way that she does not have to divorce from her family so that she can stand tall? Because in many cases, I think women have to choose between strength or abuse. If you want to uplift a woman to a level where she's equal with other people, I think in many cases, a woman has to choose between her family and her rights, and her family and her confidence. So what type of challenges do you face when you find certain cultures or in certain instances where a woman has a family, she has children, but you find that she needs to be uplifted? And how do you sometimes come across such challenges where the only way you can help her is take her out of the family, or do you sometimes find different ways of helping?
Maybe I can go first, Adri, and to be 100% honest, the women we support, if you meet them, you know that they actually do not need us to empower them. They're very much empowered. They know what they want more than us. They know their priorities. They know their agendas. They make their own decision, and all of WPHF exists to support their visions and their agenda and what they bring to the table. So all of the programs, the peace participation, everything we support is actually designed by the women that get to come to us because they need this final financial push. But they have set everything already. They know the people they work with, their communities. They know the traditions where they work. They know when to push further, and they know when maybe here we step back a bit. They know how to negotiate. And so I would say oftentimes, most of the times, the women we know and work with empower us, and we're just here to support. And hopefully, one day when gender equality is realized, we will no longer need to be in spaces advocating for them again and again, but they would be the ones speaking and the one representing themselves. So yeah, that would be my answer.
I couldn't have said it better, Sarah. And I think we're right on time, colleagues. So thank you so much for listening to us. I hope you took away one or other thing about, peace and gender equality. And we invite you to check us out on our website and get in touch. Thank you.